Well, hopefully my handy dandy spy glasses are still working, but okay everyone, I said I would make a video, show you how to make these. I'm going to tell you a cheater way too. You can use a couple different materials. I was going to do 3 different ways, ended up doing 2, but I'll tell you about the third and then the cheater way. But this is a sit-upon, so this is a piece of Reflectix, which is kind of insulation that's just bubble pad that's aluminized. So you've got that foil, and you know, in your boo-boo bags, you probably, some of you have one of those emergency blankets that's supposed to reflect your heat back. That's the same deal here, plus it's waterproof, so it's going to keep you dry. And we just put duct tape around the edges to stop it from fraying. And what's nice about the Reflectix, if you have some Sharpies, is you can make some diagrams. Now, my cub at home here made a creeper. Hard to tell which way is up with the reflection. And he says when people sit on this and fart, they blow up. Like the creeper. Maybe something might blow up. But anyway, a little potty humor. You make one of these, and that's great for a beaver or a cub, but a little bit small. I recommend something a little bigger, either cutting a bigger strip, or actually possibly doing 2 or 3 of these together. And they very compact, fold up, and in single piece you can crumple them up and shove them in just about anything. And you have something, cold picnic table, cold ground, keep you a little bit drier. The bigger piece you might be able to put your butt on it and your hands if you're a leaner, which I am. And so I did make a panel out of closed cell foam that I split into 3 panels in the middle of a Zoom meeting at work to give me something to do. So this time I'm not at work. I actually do work at work, and that particular meeting was actually about the outdoor at lunchtime. So in my defense, it was sort of related, as we were getting some neat ideas about hiking and doing stuff at S-Jam and so on from some really cool speakers. We're known for that. Anyway, got some duct tape, always handy. Dollar store kind can be interesting. You got some smaller, thinner rolls with different colors. If you're going to use a knife, scissors, whatever, just make sure it's okay with a grown-up. But this one's already pre-cut. And you want the sides to be roughly close to the same. That one already had a bit of tape on it. And what I recommend, put them together before you tape them. And they don't have to be perfect, so that they're side by side, so when you tape it, it'll actually have room to hinge out a little better. Because if you tape it flat and go to fold it, the duct tape will actually resist the folding and it won't pack away so nicely. I'm in the basement, so you can hear some weird noises, but so I would say you would just take your duct tape, kind of get it close to the size you want, and you could hold it in your teeth or stick it to something or whatever. Although nowadays I wouldn't really put much in your mouth to try and keep the germs down, but that has been a traditional technique I've seen. It might even go better to place the tape down, although it sticks to your fingers if you notice. But that's good, it means it's going to stick. And you take your piece of Reflectix or closed cell foam, whatever you want to use, and just kind of lay it down on there. Get a bit of the edge covered, and then fold it over. It doesn't have to be perfect, because what I like to do on the seam area, even if there's more on the other side, is I'm going to flip it and do it the other way, so that it's got a double seam, and anything left over sort of flip it inside, and if I miss a piece, not worried about it. So don't get hung up on the detail. This is just something you're sitting your butt on at camp, and especially good now because all of our stuff, even if not camp, scouting is outdoors right now due to that thing that everyone's talking about. But this is still useful outside of that. So, you know, kind of get it close, get it on there, flip it around, and you can get all fancy here if you like, trim it and whatever, but I'm not super into that. Now, see, if you put too much tape, it kind of makes it hard to fold, but it'll fold eventually. You can crease that under something heavy, and pretty solid stuff. I do like to go around the edges, so I have a few pieces pre-made up here hanging around, so I'll grab that and have a look at my ceiling. I might just line it up a little bit here, flip it over. I could have used, I guess, a longer piece. Hadn't thought that through. Fold that down, fold this down. It's not going to have to be perfect. Get a nice edge. I don't have enough pieces up there, I don't think, so I'm going to do another one right this way. You could, instead of from the bottom, do it from the top if you're guesstimating using your finger as a guide. Duct tape I find always fun to work with. and lots of videos on weird things you can do with duct tape. Now later, if you have some extra edge here, you can trim that with scissors to tidy it up. Depends on you. Get the color you like in duct tape. If you go to one of those discount stores, they may have a selection. They could do camo, pink, red, yellow, whatever your thing is. Again, this is just to stop it from fraying, and I'm just talking to fill the time because I had a little bit of time working in radio, and there's this thing called dead air. And it's not that it died or something, but nothing's going on. And imagine if you're working in radio, what would happen? Well, just listening to the radio in the car, if you spin the dial and don't hear some noise, you won't know the channel's there. Unless you have one of those digital receivers, but back in the old days, people didn't. So they just spin the dial past the, well, nothing, and then nobody would listen to your channel, and that would make your boss angry because he wants people to listen to the ads that paid everyone's salary. So you always had to have something going on. And you'd work on not saying and ah, which I do from time to time, but there's some interesting tricks you can do on working on that so you become aware of it. Like you could stare at yourself in the mirror and say the word that you say over and over that you don't want to say like 1,000 times looking at yourself, and for a long time after you probably won't say it. So now this one needs some decoration, but if you just flatten it out a bit, it'll fold up nice. Now I'm going to ask my cup if he wants his attached, and we'll use red tape over top of that so that he can do a fan fold. And why the Reflectix? Well, a couple of layers really gets a nice padding if you want it, but it's so light. It's almost like air. It's just a little tin foil and air, and you fold that up and you have your sit-upon. You could have one, you could have two, you could have three. You could just cut a bigger sheet. I do recommend taping the edges. I do like using this stuff underneath the sleeping bag in a tent, and you can cut this stuff for small tents for the whole surface. It usually comes in rolls that are about 4 feet, so a meter and a bit by whatever length, 20, 30, 50 feet. Not super expensive, and a decent R value. Now, if you don't have that, you've got this stuff. So what can we do? Well, we'll put this underneath here. What you can do is kind of fold it over like an envelope. Figure out where roughly middle is. I always like one end to be a little bit longer, because then by the time you fold it, it sort of fits. But it doesn't have to be perfect. So I've got it there. Now I just have this piece of metal so I can do some cutting. This is where, depending on your level and what you're comfortable with and your parents or legal guardians are comfortable with, you're going to want to get some help. And you could use an X-Acto knife. I just didn't have one handy, and just use the guide here. So I just have this little camp knife and draw it across, and it might go a little crooked, but you know what, it's just a foam sit-upon, so it's not a big deal. But what I could do is now tape that up so I can remember this is this piece. I'm going to roughly hold this here. Different ways you can do this next piece too. If we did tape it here first, then we could fold it the other way and cut it how we like, which is probably a safer way. But again, I would put these two together, kind of measure out how much duct tape do I need. I'm going to want 2 pieces on each seam. I find that holds it together better. Get it close, kind of get it close to the edge, because it's going to be a little bit of extra material there. Square it up roughly, fold it over, and that's going to allow this thing to fold open a little bit better. Okay, so I'll fold that in on itself to stick. Just using the red because it was handy. Flip it over the other way. This one's got a nice grip texture. That might be good as a fold-up pad for your toboggan, if it fits, if you have one wide enough, or you could trim it. It's still going to fit really nice in a pack. That's too wide to fit in a pack, but get a lot of extra padding. This is good for a larger size cub, beaver, scout venture, scouter, rover, whatever, for sitting on. Still pretty light. Yes, not super beautiful, but very functional. I like to use silver Sharpies. Now, how do I get this to go the other way? Well, I could just cut this off, and it's not a perfect job, but it'll fold then over here just nicely. I think I would bring that in just a bit, but still use the edge here. Make sure you get it grown up. Knives are sharp. Give it some pressure if it doesn't go the first time, because I was like, maybe I won't dig in. That's okay too. You can leave some of that extra material. Again, get it grown up nice or sharp. Just kind of split the outside, and that'll still give you a good folding surface. And I'm still going to tape the other side, but I didn't have to cut all the way through. Now this one is going to be more comfy, but not as light, so you got to trade off depending on what you're going for. I'm still a bigger fan of the Reflectix. Oh, it's going to stick and wrinkle. I'm going to see if I can straighten it, and if not, I'm going to need a whole new piece. Don't you hate when that happens? I tend to like to do one take stuff just to show the real things that happen. In a bit of a hurry, not super planned out, but you know, you only need a little bit of planning. I think the bigger safety pieces around the cutting, make sure it's folded when you flatten that out to give you that fold, easier to fold. Now you may want to cut this, or depending on how you fold it. So if you're always folding it this way, it's going to fold nice. This one will fold over. It's ready to go, except that I would still tape the back, because that's eventually going to split where you cut it. Now, other ways. So we had Scouter Dan tell us, or tell me, I don't know that you guys would have heard it, you can take a garbage bag, and I remember doing this as a kid, fill it up. We use cardboard. He suggested newspaper, and then put a lot of either saran wrap, that'll work, or you could use, oh, there's that extra tape, newspaper. That's what his suggestion was. So anything for a little extra padding, and you could actually double that as a crazy carpet. And the cheater way for all this. So here we have this. We made these 2-panel, 3-panel. These ones I decorate right up here. You're going to need to get some well, that silver or gold marker will show up on here. Probably write better on the top, even with the lumps, because that's pretty absorbent there. Some sit-upons with the cheater way. Check out the dollar store or somewhere like that and see if they still have those silver sheets that you put in your car to reflect the sunlight so you don't burn your butt when you sit in the car in the summertime. They have those. They've got nice stitched edges. They might have pictures, camo. They're going to fit really nice in a backpack, and they should do the same job. Making it more beautiful than I did. That's what I'd like to see in my group. Kind of a challenge to you guys. Who can make the coolest looking sit-upon? My cub at home here made a creeper. Hard to tell which way is up with the reflection. And he says when people sit on this and fart, they blow up.